Alright, so here you have in front of you the array of colors you need for this project. The penny is for scale. You need a chunk of white, a smaller chunk of black, a very small chunk of yellow, cyan, blue, and magenta. These are the colors that you'll need to mix to be able to make your stuff. So first off, we're splitting the yellow. I'm splitting it in half because you'll need a little bit for the light green and a little bit for the dark green. And I'm just going to set that off to the side, and I'm grabbing the cyan because I know that cyan and yellow make a much brighter, more vibrant green. Now with this small amount, I'm just rolling it between my fingers, back and forth, kind of folding it in on itself, rolling. And as you can see, the color is blending together as it's going, but it's still a little bit blue. So as you keep going, you may end up needing to grab more yellow, but at this stage, this should be an okay amount. Keep in mind that the lighter colors do get overpowered, so use a little bit more of the lighter color than you think you might need. Now I'm going to set that off to the side, and I'm going to grab more yellow. Sorry, it's getting a little stuck in my bag. So I'm grabbing it again because it was just a little bit too blue for my liking. So here I'm twisting it together to start with, folding it back up, rolling it. Now as you work with the clay, it will get softer and it'll get a little sticky or tacky. If it gets too warm and it gets overworked, you can just let it sit off to the side. But as you keep working the clay, it'll just keep making it more and more malleable and ultimately a better consistency to work with. There we go. Now we're getting to that nice vibrant green for the bamboo. Rolling. And I am doing this where I'm rolling it between my fingertips, in part so you can see it really well, but also just because it's a very good way to roll and mix together colors when you have just a small amount at a time. You can roll it between your palms, but your fingers tend to be more dexterous. Now we're good. Now we're taking that darker blue, and since I knew that the turquoise or the cyan was quite overpowering, I'm taking even less of the dark blue because I want it to be just a nice, like, grassy green rather than like Granny Smith apple green. Gonna use the same technique, rolling. Twisting it. Again, that just layers the colors together, makes it so they can blend a little easier. You can squish it between your fingers, mash it, roll it around in little balls. I had to bring it a little bit closer to my eye so I could see if it was too blue, but once I compared it to the brighter green, I decided I quite liked the color that it was at. Right now I'm trying to make the little leaves. They just need to be tiny little things, so I just ripped it in half. There we go. And now I'm making the little bamboo stick. Stretching it out, rolling it. Now I have quite a bit and I don't need that much, but the bigger thing is I need to wash my hands between colors because you don't want to contaminate your other colors. So this is the white that I grabbed. It is a little bit off-white. The student who had used this color before had mixed in a little bit extra black, but I'm just making it into a little eggy shape, kind of like a little jelly bean. So instead of leaving it a sphere, made the top a little narrower. Now we're going to make the ears, and they can be tiny. This is a small little thing. So just to show you the scale, it is very small. And you want to try to make two that are about the same size before you join them together. So I grabbed another little chunk of the black and put it next to it, and now that second one is way bigger. So we're taking off some of that extra, rolling it back into a little ball. Seeing, and there we go. Much better. Much more even. So at this point, I'm just taking them, squishing them into the white clay, and flattening them down just a little touch. Again, stick it on there. And we've got ears. Now the next thing, the pattern that I'm following, or the instructions that I'm following, have you make just one black eye patch, and then they tell you to draw on the second eye. So at this point you're going to see me put on one eye patch, and I'm going to recommend you do two. And when I go back in and fix it up, I'm going to make myself a second eye patch, because pandas have two black eyes typically. I'm not entirely sure why the instructions only have you do one, but either way. Until you fire it, or bake it, cure it, you have some flexibility. Now, when I put that on there, I noticed that it was a little bit too big. So again, I just kind of clipped off the edge. Much better. So I would make a second one of those, if you're following these directions. Make a second little black eye patch like that. So your panda can have two black eyes instead of just the one. Now at this point, I was grabbing just a tiny touch of white from my bag to add to my magenta, because I want the cheeks to be a little bit more pink and not quite so intensely magenta. So if you add white to a color, you are creating a tint. And so that's what I'm doing with the pink, or this magenta. I'm making it a lighter tint. Rolling it around. Grabbing just a tiny little touch. And again, I had that little piece and I ripped it in half. The clay was getting pretty warm at this point, so it was a little sticky on my fingers. Because at this point, we're just trying to put on the cute little rosy cheek things. Split it in half, roll it back up into little balls. Don't ask me why this panda has rosy cheeks. I don't know. It's just cute. So they're about the same size. And just a reminder, one of the super cool things about polymer clay is that you don't really need to glue things. You can just like press it into the spot where it needs to be. At this point, I realized that my little pink balls were still a little bit too big, so I made them even smaller. And tap, 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 get it to join to the clay. And on the other side, a little tap, tap, tap. You want to make sure that they're level and about the same width apart as the ears. Now this is the part where I'm adding the little bamboo stem. You'll probably end up with some extra, but that's okay because you'll actually end up using this color again, most likely. It's a very nice, bright, happy color. So there's bamboo stem, leaf number 1, and then I'm putting on leaf number 2. Again, just tapping it down to make sure that they've joined together. And now we're taking just a tiny little chunk of the black clay, rolling it out, because we're making the arms. Here we go. Super cute little panda. Now, at this point, again, in the instructions, they tell you to use a black Sharpie to make the second eye. I'm probably going to go back in and just put on a second piece of black clay. But otherwise, this is more or less good to go. You should put in a little screw eye. Those are in your kit, so then you can put it in the oven and have a fully formed, cured piece at the end.